What's up, gamers? Aaron Shack here with episode number 54 of the Shackcast. We got some really interesting stuff to talk about today with a big focus on, hey, what's going on TV in terms of our entertainment right now. We have a lot of TV shows to talk about, a lot of premieres, a lot of season finales, lots of exciting things happening. So yeah, a couple of things that we're going to talk on the show today, just to let you know in case you want to skip ahead or, dodge spoilers or whatnot. We're going to talk about The Acolyte Season 1 from Star Wars. We're going to talk about The Boys from Amazon. Season 4 just wrapped up as well. My Adventures with Superman Season 2 is continuing. So I just kind of have my thoughts so far. Halo series ending on Paramount after 2 seasons. We're going to have some thoughts on that. And also, I'm kind of late to the party on this last one, but Marvel's Secret Invasion, I literally just finished watching it. So I have thoughts on that as well, and we'll dig into that, even though I'm kind of late to the party on that. It doesn't really seem to matter on that one because they haven't really followed it up with anything like insanely meaningful here. Okay, so yeah. Lots of stuff to talk about. Episode 54. Very excited to be here with you today. And if you have any questions or comments, throw them in the chat. I have a poll on our YouTube community page where we are currently polling which one of these shows was indeed your favorite. Which is quite the mashup. The Boys, The Acolyte, Adventures with Superman, Halo, or Secret Invasion. That's a quite a battle. I would have to say The Boys, I think, probably has the best season this year and the best show probably overall. Although I do like My Adventures with Superman. That would be like my second pick there. Okay, so yeah, let's dig in. Let's start with Star Wars because recently I caught up on everything there is with Star Wars. And, I was watching The Mandalorian. I was catching up on Tales of the Jedi and Tales of the Empire. I finished up The Bad Batch. I had like 2 seasons to watch of that, because I had kind of just fell off. No particular reason there. But like with The Mandalorian, I think it's the single best Star Wars TV show that we've ever had. I did watch a little bit, I did watch Andor as well. That was another show I had to catch up on. It was all right, but kind of a snooze fest. But I was more excited about the fact that it was like a follow-up to Rogue One in a sense. Like it gives you that sort of prequel of like, okay, why do we care about this guy in Rogue One? Here's the reason, here's what he did, here's what he does. How do we honor his sacrifice or what have you? And I really loved Rogue One. It's one of my favorites. So yeah, going from there, The Acolyte is a series of Star Wars that takes place 87 years before the prequel trilogy. Now, there's a lot of problems here because one of the biggest ones is that Ki-Adi-Mundi, who is on the Jedi Council during the prequel trilogy, he ain't supposed to be alive. But they completely, all sorts of websites and places went and rewrote the canon on when he's born and what have you, so that he can, canonically or whatever, be in existence specifically for the show. So it's like when you have writers that are rewriting the lore and stepping all over what is known as Star Wars history and canon and what the fans know and what's just should be known by everybody. This is what happens when you hire writers and people to direct, produce your show when they don't know anything about Star Wars. We have the same problem with Marvel, where they hire a lot of people that are not familiar with the comics, not familiar with the characters, and they start writing really bad stories, and they start interjecting their personal politics, which is not a winning solution for a good show, okay? Or a good movie either, okay? So, when it comes to The Acolyte, I feel like the word I use here is wasted. I feel like having freaking Trinity herself, right? From the Matrix, right? Having her in the show was like such a waste because literally Carrie Ann Moss is an incredible actress and she was utilized well whenever she was in other universes like Marvel. She's like this high-powered lawyer and stuff like that. There are times where it's like, damn, we know exactly what her skill set is and how to write for her and how to make her a compelling character. But her character in Dara, like, we see her in the first episode and she just gets murdered by a second throwing knife. Like, Jedi are supposed to be these powerful figures. They're supposed to be able to kind of see things coming, to use the power of the Force and stuff like that. And the fact that she, tries to save someone else and then that occupies all of her Force energy and she can't, see the throwing knife. And this is the second thing here. And this happens with a lot of TV shows and movies and pop culture nowadays. It's like, why are there these, like, I don't even know how tall the actress is in the Acolyte, but why are these like 5'0" people? They're like beating up full-grown adults. It happens all the time, right? Whether it's the CW TV shows where it's like there's a whole bunch of like women that are really short and they're like beating up 7-foot tall henchmen that are like 330 pounds and stuff like that. It's yeah, so okay, she's 5'3", relatively short, I would say, right? So yeah, like people like that are in fights with like full-grown adults that, have self-defense, but they have a lot of mass behind them as well. So I mean, they can take some hits and, yeah, maybe as a smaller person you're a little more nimble and, you can jump around and dodge stuff. I don't know. And Carrie Ann Moss is like 5'9". That's like the average height of a man. So she's relatively tall, right? So, I mean, we see this across a lot of pop culture stuff, whether it's, Catwoman being like 4 or 5 feet tall, in the latest Batman movie. It's just like, come on, man. Like, these people, they're like really tiny are not difficult to fight in that sense. So I mean that happens, and I feel like her character was wasted in that sense. I feel the same about seeing Darth Plagueis in this one, also known as Plagueis the Wise. This is the first time that we're actually seeing him outside of like a Star Wars novel. He is credited as sort of the character that discovers that you can manipulate the Force to create life. That's something that Palpatine mentions in the prequel trilogy. Is he tells Anakin, here's a way that you can protect the ones you love, you can create life. Plagueis is the mentor of Palpatine, but also Plagueis is no longer with us at that point. So some sort of tragedy happened, right? So, I mean, that's what we know about Darth Plagueis, right? And in this show, they pretty much just use him to, like, hide in a little cave, but that's not what he does. Darth Plagueis actually hides in plain sight. So he doesn't hide squirrely, like a little gremlin, like freaking, oh my gosh. I hate that I'm blanking on that. But like Smeagol in Lord of the Rings, your little goblin-looking guy, yeah, just sniveling off in the shadows and giggling and laughing and all that. Yeah, nothing like that from Plagueis. So I feel like he was wasted, and he didn't really belong. They didn't create a reason. They have these witches that are using, sort of this dark magic and combined with the Force, and supposedly that is how Osha and her sister May are created, is from, twisting this dark magic and utilizing the Force in a way that, the Jedi would probably say is like, against their religious values, if we want to cast the Jedi here as a religion. That would probably be something that would be not sacred. It would be forbidden to do something like that. It's probably why, dark side folks like to mess around with power like that. But even then, even the dark side doesn't really do uh, the whole dark magic thing. So if this show is sort of trying to rewrite canon to say that, yeah, witches are really powerful and it's not about the dark side, it's not about even the Jedi being powerful, it's that witches are really powerful. It's like, why don't you just write a TV show about witches? If that's your favorite thing, go do that. Because there are witches in Star Wars, but we always cast them as something different. They're not It's not that they're more powerful or that they have knowledge that is greater than of the Jedi or of the Sith, right? And one of the big things that Ki-Adi-Mundi says in the prequel trilogy is that there hasn't been a Sith for 1,000 years. There's been 1,000 years of peace, right? And that is in direct contradiction of this TV show. So either, your boy shouldn't have been alive for this and shouldn't have known about this, or your boy's lying. So Ki-Adi-Mundi ends up being a rather controversial figure in this show. The things I think that are good about the Acolyte, and I hesitate to say anything good, but I do think the fight scenes, the fight choreography was done by the same team that was on Rogue One. And they did that awesome Darth Vader lightsaber thing at the end, which everyone was just like bone-chillingly shocked by that moment. But yeah, I'll say that, the stunt team and the folks that had to learn that fight choreography, it's really good. I think the final fight against where Soul is battling pretty much everybody. But I mean, I really think when Soul battles, as we like to call him, oh my gosh. So, as they call him, the Stranger, but I mean, some people call him, All Arms, stuff like that. I don't know. Yeah, that battle was really dope. I think it was cool seeing them use the Force to like jump and manipulate the air around them to sort of like cushion the backwards landing. It was all really cool stuff like that. A lot of people said, "Hey, what is this? Is this Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon?" I'm like, I mean, kinda, but I mean, it's a cool utilization of the Force that you probably, we don't always see. And media, it's kind of the same way with the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy. Why are the lightsaber fights like so much better? It's because the technology and the skill of sword fighters changes over time. Technology advances. We can have fancier effects and stuff like that. I think another problem people had was the lightsaber flickering and shooting out sparks, because lightsabers don't really do that. But I think we've seen it in the Acolyte, and I think there was another example that showed lightsabers flickering before that. But that's been kind of Disney's thing, is that they've been adding the sparks whenever two lightsabers are like connect and pressed really hard. Another issue I think that is interesting was, and I kind of forget the character's name here, but the Wookiee that is on the team. Let me see if I can just genuinely pull up the Acolyte here. I don't know why it's not bringing up his name. I thought I would recognize it. But there's a point where the Wookiee Jedi, essentially, has gone rogue, and I thought I was going to find it. Um, yeah, Kelnaka. Oh my God, it was tip of my tongue, and I was like, come on, man. Yeah. So he goes there, and okay. So Kelnaka and Torben are fighting. Okay, and this is a part where it's really weird because it's another thing where Torben's a little man, Kelnaka is giant Wookiee Jedi. Okay, so already not to be messed with. Now Kelnaka gets sort of like hypnotized by all the witches, and this is a hilarious part of the show. So he's fighting his friends, right? He's like trying to kill his friends, and he's fighting Torben, and he has him like against the wall by the neck, and he's like ready to slash him with the sword and like cut him in half with the lightsaber. And what does Torben do? He does like this weak little movement like this where he puts his saber down to block Kelnaka's saber. And it's like, dude, you're being restrained. You're using the most awkward arm position to try to block this hit. Like, physically, strength-wise, it doesn't make sense. It's like not physically possible. You might block it, but then his impact will probably push your own lightsaber into cutting off your legs or whatever it would be, right? I don't know. There were moments like that which were weird, but then Indara comes to save, Sol and Torben from being, because they were trying not to kill Kelnaka, right? You try not to kill your friend when you're fighting your friends, when they're hypnotized by witches. So Indara shows up, and, shock value, she comes in, beats him up, and uses the Force on Kelnaka to sort of sever the Wi-Fi connection that the witches have with Kelnaka, and that ends up, like, disconnecting them, but it also ends up, like, killing them, which is really weird. So, I mean, that was their big move, was to, like, use all the witches to trick all the Jedi into killing each other, and now that didn't pay off, they just all die. Like, it's a really interesting form of writing where it's like, okay, well, we have to kill all these witches. Are they going to die from, like, a cave-in? Or is it going to be, like, a Wi-Fi outage? Like, what's going to happen here? So, I mean, that to me is lazy writing. When you just come up with dumb reasons like that just kind of don't make sense. It kind of just happens. It looks like The Boys and Halo are tied 50-50. I never thought Halo would be a series that people would be like, wow, I wish I had more Halo. Okay, so we'll keep going here. Let's see. So, further on with the Acolyte, I was like, are they going to do the thing? Because May was kind of the dark side character, and Osha was the light side character, right? She was trained by Sol, who I actually really liked the character. I actually really enjoyed Sol as a character. But I don't enjoy some of his, like, motivations and his emotional. He's really easily like emotionally manipulated, and he struggles a lot in a way that Jedis are supposed to be, like, really firm and calm and decisive and all these things. And he's very, like, insecure and wobbly and back and forth, but he's also, like, really damn skilled. And, he has this intuition that maybe I would say he feels quite similar to me, that he would be a lot, probably like, trying to think of a couple characters here, but I mean, because I didn't want to just go with the lazy Qui-Gon Jinn comparison, but he kind of has that intuition that Qui-Gon has about Anakin. He has that same thing about Osha. or at least that's what he thinks in the beginning, is that, he's destined for this person to be his Padawan, right? And he can kind of feel it. But what happens when this happens is that obviously Qui-Gon ends up being killed, and then, Qui-Gon already has the Padawan Obi-Wan, and so Obi-Wan shifts to become Anakin's mentor. There was supposed to be some sort of thing going on there, and it really didn't work out as intended. And I think kind of the same thing with Soul. Soul is mentoring Osha, but then things don't really work out. He mentors her for a while, but then she leaves the Order and doesn't want to be a Jedi. And then now in the finale, she ends up going like full Sith. And then May ends up being the one with her memory wiped, which is, once again, another lazy plot tool that writers use. And they did use that at the end of the sequel trilogy on our boy C-3PO. I think that was really bad, a poor choice, lazy writing to completely erase the memory of a timeless character and erasing the memories of him and his friends. It's one of the cruelest things you can do to a person is to literally just pretty much give him Alzheimer's at that point. I mean, it's really cruel. So moving on from there, I was like thinking early on as I'm watching the show, I was like, okay, so clearly May's like the bad girl. Are they gonna do the flip-flop with the twins? And sure enough, they did. Like, if you can really see stuff like that coming, and you see it really early on in the show, is it really good writing? I can't really say that that's good writing. When you can see the laziest, oldest plot twist that anyone ever does involving twins. I don't know. I think I'm losing a website there. Being weird. I'm just going to double check that everything's okay. Okay, maybe it's just the website that I was on. Server things. Yeah, so that's where we are on that. Lazy. And I think here's the problem. So Star Wars was obviously created with some indication of the Empire was sort of meant to resemble a lot of things, right? It had some homages to what was going on with Vietnam at the time in the 70s, and of course with the Nazis, with the SS and all that. It was sort of a color swap. Instead of the all black uniforms, they were all white, and Vader's all black. There were definitely links about that, and you can hear George Lucas talk about that as he talks about what inspires Star Wars. Some of it is politics, right? And some of it is our politics put into the lens of a sci-fi world so that we can be entertained and we can learn some sort of moral value from it, right? We learn to side with the resistance, who are technically the rebels. They are the outcasts and the outlaws, and they're the ones fighting back against this empire that has taken over all of society. And we don't know why, because we haven't seen the prequels yet, but that's what we know at that point. So, and it's not that even Star Wars, it's not even that the world of Star Wars is free from politics, because actually if you look especially at the Clone Wars and that whole era of stuff, Star Wars is heavily political in its own universe. But I think the problem is where we pull our politics and our personal social agendas and inject them into the series. And that's where we start to see Marvel projects and Star Wars projects go south. And I think The Acolyte is an example of that. It's like, why did it have to have lesbian space witches that create, something that is literally Anakin is supposed to be the virgins and the first or the only, perhaps, that they find here. And now it's May and Osha, who were supposed to be one person but were split into two. So there's some weird things going on there that, if there's a season 2, hopefully not, we would get some answers to that. I'm just gonna close a couple things because some of the resources I was pulling up were not doing so well. Okay, so from there, it's when we inject our personal agendas, our personal politics into these shows. Now, what are some examples of this? Okay, the Acolyte's one, fair enough. We could say that She-Hulk would be another example of where we have to bring in the girl power politics and the, women are strong, independent, they can kick your ass. She-Hulk is really powerful. She's really strong. But in the TV show, she learns what took Bruce Banner's Hulk in the MCU, 8 to 10 years to figure out how to control his anger and how to be able to be the Hulk without being the roid rage version of the Hulk. He was able to be like Smart Hulk, and he can go back to being Bruce Banner and he can be totally fine, or he can just be Hulk. Like there was, this was something that he struggled with, and that's the evolution of the Hulk as a character. But because they needed to show that this female character is all strong, all powerful, and she needs to be a role model for young girls, you can do that, but you need to give her mistakes. You need to give her character growth. There has to be opportunities for the character to learn from mistakes, grow from those mistakes, make changes, go through training, be mentored, all these things, and then become the powerful figure that you want her to be, probably by the end of the final episode in the series. You're showing a trajectory of growth. And we do this with all characters, all superheroes especially, right? And we do it with Jedi too. But it's not cool when it's just like, well, Rey is a Jedi, but she knows everything already. And she just happens to be able to use powers that no one else has ever been able to use, right? It's not that we hate female characters or that we hate that there's a girl Jedi or a girl Sith or any of these things. It's we hate the bad writing and the lore breaking and the canon and I mean, you have to push down the male characters to make the female character look strong. That's what it is when it comes to series like that. So that's where we are on that. The Acolyte, I hope it doesn't get a season 2. If anything, I hope it just kind of gets struck from canon and that Disney realizes, like, holy crap, we really made some mistakes on this one. Sure, there were some cool lightsaber battles, but holy crap. So, I don't know. Let me know what you think. As usual, I don't disrespect anyone for disagreeing with me on this. I wanted to go into the show liking it because I was really excited about the High Republic era of the Jedi, but I mean, this TV show did what people nowadays seem the new fad is like. The witches are cool, bad guys are cool, and now in all popular media, it's like we try to make the good guys bad. The Avengers are bad, they're evil, so, we're making a bunch of TV shows where the Avengers are the bad guys, and these rebels, secret invasion stuff, they're the good guys. And it's the same with the Acolyte. It's like the Jedi, actually they're not all good, they're corrupt and they're evil and they're all bad, and actually you should be on the side of the lesbian space witches and the Sith and all that. And it's like, it's totally fine if you like the Sith and you enjoy the Sith and you would prefer to be on the Sith side and you'd like a show that's all about evil and all about the Sith and stuff. But I think it betrays what we know and love about Star Wars. And the Jedis are the heroes. That's just what it is, man. It's what it is. Okay, so moving on. The Boys. The Boys Season 4 on Amazon Prime just wrapped up. I think overall it was a really good season from a really good series. It is always refreshing when we see this show come out with a new season because, we are kind of catching a little bit of superhero fatigue. Even though I love Marvel and DC Comics, even though I love the TV shows, the movies, the comics, the video games, all these great things. We're swimming in one of the greatest eras of comic book history, where we have so many different ways to experience our characters and these worlds. And I mean, we've had 10 years of great Marvel films, and same for DC. And, you know, you got the DCU shaping up to be something interesting and different. And maybe people will enjoy that, maybe they won't. Yeah, looks like we got a vote on Secret Invasion. So 3-way tie between The Boys, Halo, and Secret Invasion as a favorite show of the list that I've compiled. That poll is on the community tab there on YouTube. Okay, so back to where we were on The Boys. It's a refreshing palate cleanser, right? Because it's like, in this show, the Supes are the bad guys, and, you know, the regular people are the good guys, right? And in this season, we're kind of trying to figure out how to do multiple things, okay? The boys have to figure out a way to defeat Homelander, because whatever happened in season 3, you know, while it was a good attempt, it didn't pan out. Things just didn't work. So now they have sort of a soup virus. But what's the problem? In order for it to be strong enough to kill Homelander, it will literally be like a, you know, to parallel it to COVID-19, it would literally be that, but for superheroes. So it would even kill Starlight, who, you know, is a friend of the team. It would even kill Kimiko, who is a key member of the team that everyone knows and loves. It could potentially kill Ryan, who is Billy Butcher's son, and also Homelander's son. Okay? So, I mean, there's a lot of moral and ethical dilemmas, and this is where I think there's good writing in the show. There's interesting things happening. There's interesting plot points. There's a lot of different motivations. It's like, you know, you want to see the boys succeed, but it's like, how far do you want them to go? And, you know, what if there are good Supes out there? Well, obviously, it's like most of them are bad Supes, and they're all controlled by the Seven. And, you know, then the other big thing is that there's a lot of parallels to what happened on January 6th in our real life world. Now, here's the difference, right? Didn't I just say earlier in the episode, you know, don't bring our politics and our agendas into our entertainment? Well, it's all about how you do it. You do it with good writing. You do it with a purpose where it actually has a point in the story, and it's not just to flex like, we're lesbians, you know, like, it needs to be like, dude, we're here to tell you a moral story. You may disagree with it, right? Like all the Republicans are sort of waking up to the idea that Homelander all of a sudden is the bad guy. Like, dude, it's been 4 seasons. Like, you should have caught that episode 1, that, you know, Homelander is not the character to idolize, right? He is the bad character. Even though I'm a Superman fan, Homelander is the parallel opposite of what Superman is. Okay, just making sure the poll is good there. That's what Superman is. So, how do we just gonna bring that up with the boys. So I said, how do we allow the politics in? Well, it's because of good writing. So here they're bringing in the whole January 6th thing. There's stuff about, you know, certifying the election. There is stuff about, you know, we're going to stage a coup, which is literally what Donald Trump tried to do in 2021, right? So in The Boys, that pretty much same thing is happening, and that's why they actually had to censor the final episode, which was originally going to be called Assassination Run. They called it the season 4 finale, and they put out a disclaimer, you know, we don't stand for real political violence in the real world, okay? So the show is literally all about how superheroes are popular as celebrities are, and that they are as influential as politicians are. And sometimes that's through their raw power, whether it's, you know, Homelander threatening the Speaker of the House and making him the de facto president of the United States, right? And then, of course, the other threat that we have is Victoria Newman. Victoria Newman is the character who has the ability to just make people's heads explode, right? Very big threat. And she's been doing that in secret for a long time. So what happens in the finale is that Homelander reveals her power to the world. He blasts her with the laser eyes, and she automatically heals from it, and it proves that she's a soup. And the party voting for her and Singer were, they were kind of anti-soup. And so if they figure out that someone within the party is a soup, it's like they're going to be a little more on board with the coup, right? So that was the other threat that they were trying to get rid of the entire season. So you got Newman, you got Homelander, and of course, you got members of the Seven, and of course, you have the fact that they tried to turn Huey's arch nemesis, who literally ran through his girlfriend and killed her. You have him, and okay, I just wanted to pull something up there. A-Train. Yeah, so you have A-Train, who they decide to try to turn him, but then he blows his cover, and it all ends up blowing up in our faces. And we don't really know what happens with A-Train. He kind of just runs off, and his show gets canceled and all that stuff. I was kind of hoping he would show up somewhere in the finale and deliver a gut punch and maybe come in and kill someone. The other thing we had was that Ashley injects herself with some V. So, and she turns into some sort of abomination that I assume we'll get some follow-up on in the final season, which will be season 5 of The Boys. So we've got a lot of interesting plot threads going in different directions. All the boys get captured at the end. Billy Butcher has revealed that he's had this sort of superpower of these, these tentacles that come out of his chest and rip apart Victoria Newman. And then that was also how he was able to kill other characters throughout the show. He had this sort of virus inside of him of V that's killing him at the same time, but also giving him this unique sort of last stand power that he can use. But it's still not enough to defeat Homelander. Fair enough. Okay. So I think it's a really well-written season. I think each episode had some strengths and weaknesses. I think the episode on the farm was really strong. I think that was an episode where you were just constantly on the edge of your seat. But I think the only problem with this season is that there were some episodes where it was kind of like nothing's really developing. Nothing's really happening. Like you've had all these major things build up, and we're really stuck waiting 2 or 3 episodes until the finale, and you kind of flatline everything. And it's like everyone's just talking about what they're going to do, and we're just sort of shaping things, and we're not really creating more moments of tension. We're not answering any plot threads. We're not creating new plot threads. It sort of just levels off at a certain point. So there is a little point in this season, which is arguably a very good season, where it just kind of flatlines a little bit. Just a little bit. Not a bad show, but it just does. Just a fact. Just a thing. My opinion. All right? So yeah. I think The Boys, really good. One of the best shows on TV right now. If you're not watching it already, some of the satire they had in this season, like the oh my gosh, the ice skaters singing about Christmas and how we can't cancel Christmas and stuff, that was pure brilliance. I love that song. I think there was some genuinely really well-written satire and great moments throughout the show that I think were just 10 out of 10. I'm going to do a quick refresh here because I'm not sure if we're getting... Always get a little suspicious. Everything's not working to plan. Okay, cool. So yeah, that's The Boys. That's where I stand. Season 4 is over. Very excited to check out Season 5, and we'll go from there. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is my adventures with Superman. Now, this season isn't over, so, I mean, there's not really a whole lot to talk about. But my adventures with Superman is on HBO Max, and it's going, Season 2 is currently airing. I believe the next episode will be tomorrow morning, and we'll see how it goes from there. I've genuinely enjoyed the show, but I think what made Season 1 great was that there were villains. And there were lots of references to Superman and the lore and other characters, and he's trying to discover who he is and where he comes from and what his powers are and what are his strengths and what are his weaknesses and how to manage that. And he's obviously got a crush on Lois, and he's maintaining a friendship with Jimmy Olsen. It's all good things, but I think the core of the show, and I kind of saw this from when they announced it, and they called it My Adventures with Superman, and Supergirl had Lois Lane had the short pixie haircut. I was like, yeah, it's not an agenda show, but it is a show where it's really the Lois Lane show, to be honest. It's all about her and how she is, and granted, she is a key part of Superman's life, a key part of Superman's character, but literally most of the time, she's the one that saves him. And Superman in this show is sort of written as the himbo, the big dumb brute, But there are some genuinely good moments in the show, but there is always that little plot point that undermines the character of Superman. And the fact that the show is My Adventures with Superman. It's not Superman, The Adventures with Lois, or Superman and Friends, or whatever, whatever other name you could come up with that would allow it to be less that way. But what is interesting about Season 1 is that it built up the characters, the enemies, the lore of the world, and all these things. And then Season 2 is really a solo villain season. It's all about Brainiac. It's all about the introduction of Supergirl, which I thought was pretty cool. I think the voice actress for Supergirl is really cool. I don't necessarily like the design of her. They kind of went with like a Zelda design for Supergirl, which kind of fits in with some of the anime art style that they chose for the show. It kind of has that quirky style to it. But I think the fact that it becomes this show where every episode hinges on moving the plot forward an inch makes this season a little weaker. And I love Brainiac, but I don't like his design. I don't like the motivations and the absolute, he's just immediately more powerful than everybody for no reason. And he's just an AI in this version. He's not like an alien. He's not doing the stuff that Brainiac from the comics we're really familiar with. He's really just like, oh, he used to be our computer back on Krypton, and now he's like a rogue robot army. So, I mean, there's a part of it there where I'm just like, it is. I don't like her hood. Whose hood? Are we talking about My Adventures with Superman? In the comic? I don't know. You're gonna have to catch me up on that. I'm not sure about that. So yeah, it's a good show that I'm always excited to see more of, but I still go back and really enjoy the animated series of Bruce Timm's Superman. I enjoy that. But this is something new, and I'm enjoying that we're getting a Superman show, period. Oh, you're talking about comics right now. No, this like right now specifically I'm hammering in on My Adventures with Superman, you know, the TV show. Which I mean does kind of bring up another thing. I don't really let me see. Let me make sure there's no compromising info here. Um oh dang, we lost it. Hang on, let me refresh. Yeah, right here. I don't really like the new suit. I don't like the new suit. Let me go back. Might get copyright struck on this just for showing images of the show. But yeah, I don't really like the armor there. I was kind of hoping it would change at some point, and that it would like become her actual suit. Maybe that's a payoff we'll get later in the show or at the end of the season. You know, maybe she'll, if she doesn't end up dying, which is what I'm kind of worried about, is that they might actually just like kill her off. They'll be like, yeah, we got her for this one season. But I actually think the interesting little bit of a flickering romance between her and Jimmy Olsen, as the first human man that she meets. I think that's something interesting that they can play with. But yeah, I think the last episode that they had us on, that's episode 9. I think they kind of gave us a good cliffhanger there, and I'm actually excited to see what happens tomorrow. I don't know if I'll get to watch it right away, but if it's another 10 episode season, I think we could potentially be looking at the season finale, being tomorrow. Which, I don't know. I don't like these 8 and 10 episode seasons. I think if you're doing an animated show, 22 episodes. If you're doing a, like a scripted, like a live action series, I think 13 episodes is the secret sauce, where it's like, it's not too little, it's not too many. You can still have your one dedicated flashback episode that every show needs to have, Right? Most of the villains are enhanced with Krypton tech. Okay. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, Brainiac, like, has that for this show, whereas Brainiac kind of has it as well, but I mean, he's also an alien. He's also, like, super powered and whatnot. Yeah. What's up, Marvel? How's it going? Deadpool and Wolverine, very excited. I will check it out. For sure. Let's see. So that's all I have for My Adventures with Superman Season 2. The next big news that I have is that the Halo series on Paramount is canceled. I don't think it was a good show. I literally waited until the Halo series was free to watch on YouTube, which I think it should still be. I think Season 1 should be able to be watched on YouTube. It's just not good. It doesn't obey the books. It tries to, kind of, and it has a few moments where it like pays homage to the video games, but most of the time it's about seeing Pablo's butt and having sex scenes with the villain of the show, who is completely unlikable, and there's no reason why those two characters should be in love with each other, right? So there's that. Season 2 of Halo, which I haven't seen yet, so I won't really comment too much, but it's all about the Battle of Reach, right? Yeah, very bad. So Season 2 is all about the Battle of Reach, which arguably, I'm reading the book about the fall of Reach, and it's really good. And Halo Reach, I would argue, is probably one of my favorite Halo games. It's between Halo Reach and ODST are probably my favorites. So, I mean, it should be a home run, but the way they told the story is that Master Chief wasn't, once again, Master Chief isn't in his armor. He's not out there fighting. There's a few things to have a canonically correct Halo series, is that Master Chief is in the armor. And he's in the armor most of the time. And when I get it with these like Hollywood productions where it's like, well, you want to show the star, right? You want to show the star power, right? So you have to have these moments where he unmasks or he's out of the suit and he's talking and being a regular guy. We see it even with the Marvel shows, right? Like, you know, you don't just get Robert Downey Jr. to play Iron Man and then have him under the mask for the whole time, okay? You know, there's probably even something in their contracts where it's like, hey, I need this much, you know, screen time to show my face because, I mean, this is the moneymaker, right? Like, so, I mean, we get that a lot, and that's why there's so many scenes in, like, superhero shows and stuff where it's like Spider-Man will be fighting a villain, and then he just pulls the mask off, and he's like, yeah, I'm Tom Holland, don't forget it. And then he puts it back on, and it's like, dude, everyone's going to see, and your secret identity is ruined, okay? Because, you know, Iron Man's flipping up his mask during battle, like, multiple times just to ask people questions. Cap, are you okay? And he puts it back down. Like, come on, man. Like, what's the point of having secret identities here? So, okay. So here's the thing. Yeah, I agree. The Halo games, the books, the comics, you name it. Everything is better than this TV series. But what did they do wrong? It's the running theme of this entire podcast episode. It's bad writing. It's bad direction. It's bad producers, okay? It's people that know nothing about the source material being paid to write about the source material. It's a no-brainer when it comes to stuff like this. In previous what would you call it? Previous adaptations of stuff. What do we have? Okay? Let's look back. When DC did The Dark Knight, when DC did Man of Steel, who did they hire? They literally hired comic book writers. Okay? For the Clone Wars and for The Mandalorian, who was hired for that? People that know about Star Wars. Dave Filoni, okay? Who was literally mentored by George Lucas, right? So, I mean, you have people that know the source material and know how to write about it, right? Like, you wouldn't hire a burger flipper at McDonald's to write the Halo series. He doesn't have job experience in writing, or, you know, he's got to either prove that he knows everything about Halo's lore and he's been secretly writing fan fiction in his basement, you know, to be able to get the job, right? So, I mean, you don't hire people purposefully that know nothing about the source material. Now, is it potentially an advantage to sometimes have someone on the team that is just a writer, that just doesn't, you know, like, let's say you got 5 people writing the Halo show, and 4 of them have either written Halo books, or they're familiar with Halo, or they wrote on the comics, or maybe they're part of the game dev team and they wrote narrative on the video game, and now they're writing for the show. Okay, fair enough. But the 5th person is a nobody who is a good writer, and maybe they write science fiction or whatever, but they just don't know anything about Halo. Is it good to have that outsider's perspective? Sure. But to the point where you're taking that person's opinion as the sole opinion, and the only way forward is when you end up with bad shows like The Acolyte, Halo, the entire series, and so on. So basically what the cancellation of Season 3 and the overall series says to me is that Season 2 of Halo, being the fall of Reach, the most biggest, impactful, popular moment in the series and the games, wasn't enough to save this show. Now, they are shopping around. They are going to try to, you know, Paramount is going to try to put the Halo show somewhere else, you know, see if Netflix or Max or Amazon or someone will buy it. But I don't think Season 3 and picking up with the cast and the same writers and everything, it's not the way to go. I don't want there not to be a Halo series, because I like the idea of a Halo series. It just needs to be done right. Get writers from the games, the books. Get people that, you know, cast an unknown as Master Chief if you have to, and keep him in the helmet, dude. You know? You can have some moments out of battle where they're taking the helmet off, but like we don't need weird sex scenes between the hero and the villain pushing some sort of weird agenda there. We need Master Chief is about blasting aliens, man. Halo is about galactic warfare. It's not about boning alien chicks, okay? It's not about Master Chief's big butt, okay? Which we saw so much throughout the series. So, there we go. What's up, Jay? You came in at a weird time. You're like, what? So yeah, Halo series is canceled. If anything, and listen, the budget was $200 million for the Halo series, and it's a flop. It's so simple. Just write it correctly and give us more pew-pews, okay? More pew-pews. All right? We need it. Jay, did you have anything? I don't want to circle back around too much, but did you have anything on My Adventures with Superman Season 2? Because I literally just wrapped up talking about it a little bit, but I wanted to see if you have some back and forth on that before I move on to, I'm going to talk a little bit about Marvel's Secret Invasion, and we'll kind of wrap up the show from there. But if you had any thoughts or any questions, concerns, or opinions regarding, because I know we have a really interesting back and forth with My Adventures with Superman, and this season in particular, I think if I quickly try not to retread too much on what I said earlier, I just think it's Lois's show, and she's the hero, and she saves Superman, and he's the dumb himbo, and he needs his friends to succeed. And that's usually not how Superman is portrayed or written. I like the art style. I like that Supergirl is here. Lois Lane can go. She's ruining my show. Without being sexist or anything, I think there is an agenda there pushing into the show, and it is kind of ruining it. Because it's really cool. It's awesome watching Superman fight all these villains and stuff, but when it becomes all about her, it's a girl power agenda, and I literally just finished the She-Hulk rant and the stuff on the Acolyte of, not having character growth. You just have to have girl power, which I don't know. I think I had a fire tweet earlier this week. Hang on. Let me find it real quick, because I got some fire tweets for you guys. Girl power. Yeah, where they just make someone powerful for no reason, like just to be better than the guys in the shows. I have to scroll down a little bit to find it. Oh, okay, this one's really good too. This person on Twitter made Albert Einstein in Elden Ring. I just want to share that real quick. I mean, because that's really good. That's actually really good. And then my response, actually kind of a fire tweet here. Einstein as a high intelligence character would actually be an awesome playthrough. Challenging, assuming he wouldn't have too much vigor, endurance, or strength that most players rely heavily on. Got a decent number of likes. This guy tried to make a quote-unquote joke. I don't think anyone found it funny. Someone else said, just make him a gravity mage and he'll be fine. And I said, yeah, that's building on a great idea right there. I wish they didn't make her so toxic. Yeah. I mean, that's how I feel about... hang on, I gotta go back to my feed. Let me find the tweet I was looking for, because I did have a pretty fire tweet here on the agenda there. Hang on, I think I got a couple more threads here. I think the show's getting longer as we speak. You guys have given me second life here. I got the second wind. I was like, we've almost exhausted all the topics. No, not quite. Not quite. Let me find it. Yeah, my thoughts on the Halo show. I have a tweet here. I think they need to start over. New cast, new story. Be respectful of the source material. Tell a story from the Halo universe. Hire writers that have written for Halo, either the books or the games or whatever, and know Halo lore. Okay, I think I found it. Okay, I found it. I found the hit tweet right here. This is it. This is it. Okay. Halo was bad the moment he took the helmet off. Yeah. She literally throws herself off a building to find out if he's Superman. What if he wasn't? Now, Jay, I don't know if you've seen Superman 2, but she does the same thing in that movie with Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder. She does. That's a common Lois Lane trick, and I do kind of hate it. I do kind of hate it because it's very manipulative, and it's like, well, what if you're wrong? Then you're just dead. You're just dead, Lois. But yeah, it is a common trope, unfortunately. Okay, so I wanna answer the question on the girl power thing. So I already tapped into the idea of She-Hulk automatically learning everything the Hulk knows just so she can be powerful in her TV show, okay? And we see the same thing with Rey in Star Wars, where she learns all these new, like, Jedi powers just so she can be more powerful than the guys in the show, okay? Right. Yeah, she does it in every iteration of Superman. Lois Lane gives women a bad name. Yeah, it's kind of toxic, man. Don't throw yourself off a roof or shoot yourself with a gun to see if Superman is really Superman, you know? Okay, so here we go. And this is from Star Wars Theory, who is a very popular force in the Star Wars community. He creates a lot. He has a really great YouTube channel, over 3 million on YouTube. He does like a lot of like fan theories. He does, reviews. He has a website where he sells lightsabers, which are like incredibly durable. Pretty dope dude. So I've been enjoying a lot of his content. And okay, that's not the tweet. Okay, yeah, right here. So he was talking about how at the end of the Acolyte, how Osha is able to bleed her crystal red and turn her blue lightsaber, or actually Soul's blue lightsaber red, out of her anger and her hatred and her pain and all that. So the theory says it takes Vader multiple failed attempts at bleeding a crystal red until finally succeeding, and it nearly destroys him. Osha says, "Me mad now, you bad man, die. All powers unlocked." So once again, as me and Jay are sort of illustrating here, in these shows, the writers give the women power that no one in the universe should have. Yeah, they kind of are. And so and you can watch his video here where he narrates one of the comics where Vader actually turns the crystal red. I would highly recommend watching this. I'll drop the tweet in the comments if you guys want to check it out. Check out that video. So I reply, I say, another example of plot armor for Osha. This also happened with the She-Hulk series from Marvel. She instantly learned things that Bruce Banner's Hulk in the MCU took years to learn. 8 to 10 years, actually. Because why? Girl power. She has to be strong woman. She can't have flaws or character growth over time. She must prove she is better than other male Marvel characters by instantly doing what took them years to master. And this is an example that we can see of female characters in Star Wars, in Marvel, pretty much anywhere. They're just powerful out of nowhere with no training, no failure, no mentorship, no learning from mistakes, right? Like the reason we like the Karate Kid or something, for example, is that the Karate Kid gets bullied in school and he gets beat up and stuff. But He learns from his mistakes. He tries to learn to be this fighter, and he learns the virtue of strength. And having strength doesn't mean you need to use all your strength, but, he uses that in order to win. We see that trajectory of growth of the character, right? We see him make mistakes. We see him get beaten down. We see him lose. We see him fail. And that builds up. And it's just like Rocky. Everyone loves a good montage, right? Like Rocky's this, struggling fighter. And, he trains and he grows and he loses fights over and over until he wins, So, I mean, there's a trajectory of growth. And the reason Rocky is such an impactful movie is because even in the first movie, he doesn't win. He fucking loses. So there it is. I love montages since Team America. Everybody needs a montage. Montage. Even Rocky had a montage. Montage. Okay, anyway. Lot of things happening at once, showing everybody what's going on. You need a montage. Montage. Okay, anyway. We're back. All right. So, that. And then someone comes in the comments, and this is really good. At least Omega is a character from The Bad Batch, goes through some growth over a span of episodes and from one season to the next in Bad Batch, much like Ahsoka did during the Clone Wars and Ezra in Rebels. Ezra is a man, but I mean, it just shows. Character growth is something we enjoy in our characters. So the audience watches them gradually overcome their flaws and becomes more organically interested in them. I say precisely. That's an example of proper pacing, good writing, character growth. It's not Star Wars fans hate women, okay? It's not a thing. It's not a racism. It's not a sexism. It's not that we don't like black people in Star Wars, okay? The Acolyte is bad characters, bad writing, breaking canon, breaking lore, okay? There's nothing wrong with the main character being a black female character, okay? Nothing wrong, all right? We're fine. Most Star Wars fans are not racist, sexist bigots, okay? There is a small, loud portion of the community that is probably that, right? Okay, so this guy says, he comes out of left field and says something crazy. He says most women don't know how to write good female characters. I say, no. I disagree. I say, no, this is a bad writer's issue, not a women can't write issue, okay? Plenty of, I can't even say it, plenty of prolific writers. There's plenty of prolific writers, okay? There's plenty of prolific writers that are female. In this case, Disney chose to hire writers, and of course Headland, that knew nothing of Star Wars or what is canon. The same thing happened with some of the Marvel movies, where they didn't even hire comic book writers or even follow comic book stories. And that's a reason why the Marvel movies are starting to tank. They're starting to be a little shit, right? Since Endgame. They're intentionally hiring writers that want to push a certain agenda or narrative, and it's not landing with the fans, because what the fans want are comic book style interpretations. They don't want our world's politics and our world's social agendas and the writer's personal opinions to invade our entertainment. There's plenty of room for some political or moral message to be shared. Obviously, as I said earlier in the show, the Empire had some influence of Nazis and the Vietnam War and all this stuff. It turns out that when you insert the girl power and gender-affiliated political issues that we have in America into our entertainment, it takes people out of the entertainment and back into our real-world problems. It's a jarring disconnect, and you're meant to immerse your audience in this beautiful world and a fantasy. The moment you take a misstep, you break that immersion, you lose the audience, and they immediately know something is wrong. It's hard to come back from that. Yeah, it bothers me that they're willing to pay people that don't know anything instead of actually hiring and using the storylines from the comic books. Yeah, I mean, you have, Jay's right on this. You have a gold mine of material, whether it's the Star Wars books, which are kind of no longer declared canon anymore. They're not really quote unquote, when Disney bought Star Wars, they pretty much just said, like, hey, all this stuff isn't canon. Like, they pretty much said that about books and things. So, it's weird. I don't know why you hire inexperienced writers or people that know nothing of the source material. Okay, so that's one hit tweet. All right, I got another banger here. Okay, so once again, this YouTuber, Star Wars Theory, he takes a lot of flack for just sharing his opinion. Now, he brings up the point that he tends to... Yeah, let me illustrate this before we read the tweet. He loves Star Wars, right? So he wants Star Wars to be good. Most of the time, he likes Star Wars. But with the Acolyte, he's noticed it's a really bad show. And he's being called a hater and a grifter and all this stuff because he doesn't agree, right? So this tweet here, he says, notice how people never talk about Star Wars or give answers to the claims against lore-breaking material these tourist writers defecate? Rather, all talk is focused on my opinion of it and how I need to be silenced. How is that a democracy? This is a democracy, Anakin! Okay, I can't share my opinions or love for Star Wars, it seems. It goes against the toxic positivity attitude of judge nothing and consume. When I like some of the stuff, I was called a shill. And this happens to me too. So, I mean, I can relate. When it's the Marvel and DC stuff and I really enjoy something, I say, I love Man of Steel. I love Batman vs. Superman. I love Zack Snyder's Justice League. People call me a shill. I say I enjoyed the story of Suicide Squad. I get called a shill. I did enjoy it. It's not a popular story. It's not a great story. But it was interesting. I don't think the narrative is going anywhere with the post-game content. But anyway, okay. When I don't like some of the stuff, I'm a grifter or a hater, right? So you can't just have an opinion of like or dislike. You have to be a shill or a grifter. And people immediately tie this into your politics, right? If you don't like the Acolyte, that means you're a Republican. If you do like the Acolyte, it means you're a liberal. Well, I've got news for you. I'm a liberal and I hate the Acolyte. Okay? Which one is it? Perhaps I'm just a diehard fan who knows his shit and has, wait for it, standards. And I think he's right on that. He's obviously a very big fan of Star Wars. He's a super nerd for Star Wars. And I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing. I can agree or disagree with his takes. I think as I've watched a lot of his coverage on the Acolyte, I find that I agree with a lot of his findings on that. If we keep going here, listen, I love Star Wars more than a lot of you who just found it last weekend. It's been more important to me than you'll ever understand. That is why I'm passionate to speak out against this corporate machine that is destroying it with some of their BS projects and reform these timeless characters. If you like good slop, good for you. I don't, and I won't be silenced for my opinions about it. So my response here, and I'll say it's probably, it doesn't have a lot of likes. It's not like a banger tweet or whatever, but it's my opinion. And I think it speaks to a lot of what our culture is going through right now. And so my reply to him, which gets one like, this is sadly the state of internet discourse and of anything, whether it's gaming, Star Wars, Marvel, DC Comics, music. It's either shill or grifter with no in-between for actual opinions and discussion. It's entirely, if we disagree, I must hate you and I must battle you online because I have to prove your opinion is wrong. The first step is admitting this is all a problem. Not really sure where we go from here. Reversing the discourse on everything in pop culture recently is going to be a difficult one. And I think that's where it comes down to, right? Like the recent thing with Taylor Swift. People saying that her shows aren't really that great and that her music isn't really live. It's just her dancing to recordings of her music. And whereas, Dave Grohl of the Foo Fighters said, like, hey, our music is real, it's live, we're playing instruments, and we make mistakes live. And when you're lip-syncing or dancing along to a backing track, there is room for some error, but then you get called either a grifter or a shill if you're on one side or the other of that argument. And it's the same with Marvel. It's the same with Star Wars. It's music. It's gaming. You know, if you like Suicide Squad, you're just a shill. It's not that you can't even be allowed to like that game, right? And it was the same with Batman Arkham Origins back in the day. It was like people said, oh, you're just a shill for blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, only Kevin Conroy games are the real Batman games. And it's like, and I said it then. I said someday Kevin Conroy's not going to be alive. He's not going to be the one playing Batman. We have to be able to move on. At this point, I don't even want... That's a good joke. I like that. I'm at the point where I don't even want a writer if they're vegan or from Washington State. I blame hipsters that pay more than $2 for coffee. Yeah. Once again, gamers. Starbucks is they are pro-Zionism, so they are for the genocide of the Palestinian people. So, yikes! And their billionaire owner has doubled down on that. So I mean, I think Star Wars Theory has some points there, and I've really enjoyed his content, and I guess I'm one of those 3.3 million subscribers that he has on YouTube. I'm gonna have to dive into more of his, his knowledge and his fan fictions, and maybe even pick up one of his lightsabers, because I saw him doing one of his videos where he was testing the durability of the lightsaber. He was like throwing it like a javelin against concrete. He put it inside his car door, and he slammed the car door on the lightsaber. It dented his car door. He damaged his car to prove the durability of the lightsaber. So like I don't know. Like I gotta figure out which one I want and go from there. Because if I'm gonna spend a lot of money on a lightsaber, I want it to be a good one, that I can actually have play fights with, I love it. I love the topic. Okay, so I have another thing here. Let me see. Let me find it. Okay, this one's really interesting. And this might get a little controversial here, all right? The Boys' Anthony Starr, who plays Homelander, has some choice words about Batman. He says, he's not a superhero. He's actually a guy running around in a bat outfit with some fancy toys and a chip on his shoulder about money. But it's going to be really exciting to see what happens with DC and James Gunn. Okay? Yeah, dude, I wish I had 400 as well. I'm not really... I'm not really in a good place. I know some of those lightsabers look expensive, but I mean, if you're gonna buy one at a Disney park, it's gonna be about that price too. If you're gonna buy like one of the glass ones that they make that can break, but they light up and have LEDs, like you're gonna pay a lot. So I mean, I figure go big or go home. So someday when I do make that investment, I want it to be a worthy one. So it might be with him. It might be with TheorySabers.com, Okay, so he says he's not a superhero. He's just a guy running around in a bat outfit with fancy toys. So I have a take on this, and it may or may not be popular. Okay, so here's what I say. Here's my response. Batman is a hero. Superman is a superhero. Words have meaning. Batman is incredible for being a man and fighting demigods, monsters, criminals with nothing but his detective skills, gadgets, and being a highly trained fighter. Superman is the embodiment of the word superhero, and with all his power and strength, he makes the choice to do the right thing, even when good and bad isn't black and white. Every hero or superhero has their quirks, and it doesn't make them any less to be a hero than a superhero. It just means you're not born an alien or a mutant, etc. It's a little harder to survive in the world when you're just a man or a woman who is a hero, and that's pretty cool. Yeah, so J-Star says, I gasped at that, but I can't argue with it. Words have meaning. It's just real. And actually, it's literally one of most people's brag. Most people's greatest brag about Batman is that, well, Batman, in some of the comics, he can beat up Superman. And he's just a man. And it's because, well, Batman's resourceful. He learns his enemy's strengths and weaknesses. He learns how to exploit them. He's crafty. He creates gadgets and suits, and he trains himself to be able to face that threat, even though Superman could just flick him like that, and he could explode into a splash of blood. But Superman doesn't do that. Superman has morals. He has values. He doesn't want to kill his friend, and even when him and Batman are on different sides and they oppose each other on an issue, like in the movie Batman vs. Superman, or even the comic The Dark Knight Returns, even then he knows it is wrong to kill, so he's not going to kill. So he has to hold back his power a little bit. Yeah, that statement was brave and bold. Yeah. So that's where we stand on that. Now, let me see if I can find more here. Because I think I had more to the thread. I gotta find where the conversation picked up. I might have to jump to another tweet here. Batman isn't a soup. I said this too. Batman's not a soup. Sure, we can say he's a hero, but he's also just a man. Someone else said, is he wrong, though? I mean, think about it. In the end, Bruce is a 1%er with a compulsion to beat criminals to a pulp. Laugh out loud. I said he is literally just a man, too. There's nothing super about him. That's pretty cool that he can hang with superpowered heroes and still hold his own. I think the next point. Where is it? Some fans believe that Batman is this unstoppable god at all times because of things like prep time. This is also true. You can't praise him for being human and in the same breath call him super. He is a hero that makes mistakes, gets hurt, and learns to make himself better. He's an astounding human being, but that human part is what is so important about him. And here's my response. That's always been the best part about that man, and is that he's human. Batman is human. He learns and he grows from the mistakes that he makes. I hate when people use the defense, because I'm Batman, or like you said, the prep time excuse. If all he needs is prep time to be able to defeat any threat, what's so exciting about reading Batman then? If Superman is all powerful and he has too many powers and he's boring, and if all Batman needs is prep time to be as powerful as Superman, what's the point in reading? In this respect, Batman and Iron Man are the exact same. Not only are they both rich, but they learn from their mistakes. Iron Man comes back after every fight with a new suit that makes up for the weaknesses that almost cost him his life in the previous fight. Batman does the same at times. New gadgets, new suits, new skills, some secret trick that he's able to use to catch his villains off guard with. It's the same thing. And Jay's already hitting it in the comments. He's already like one step ahead of what I'm reading out loud here. Is no one thinks about that until you say it. Yeah, it's very true. Batman and Iron Man just proves money is power. I mean, yeah, and that's why some of the most interesting Batman comics have been ones where they actually take away his money, where, you know, the villain comes in and bankrupts Wayne Tech, and you know, he's stripped of his mansion, gets blown up by bad guys, the Batcave crumbles into nothing, and Batman, all he has is like whatever was on him at the time. Green Arrow, yeah, same thing. We're going to put intelligence to the side for this one. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. That's where we are. Hang on. I think there was one. Was there one more thing that I said in respect to that? I'm trying to think here. If I had another. Trying to find. Maybe it was in a different thread. Yeah, Hawkeye. Hawkeye's another example. Black Widow. Yeah, I don't know. I'm struggling to find that thread. It's like it's disappearing. Now, the word superhero is defined as a benevolent fictional character with superhuman powers, such as Superman. He's literally in the definition of superhero, okay? But we also use the term superhero colloquially, okay? So what does that mean? Well, it means if I ask you, if I say, hey, Jay, who's your favorite superhero? You can name anyone. You can say Batman. You can say the Punisher. You can say Iron Man. You can say people that don't have superhuman powers because we use the term colloquially to identify DC and Marvel and various other properties characters, and we lump them all together. But if we're literally grasping the definition of superhero, then it is someone who is super, who is more than human, superhuman, superhero. It is more than just a hero, okay? So I say the term is also used colloquially, not in its literal definition. We refer to a lot of comic book heroes as superheroes, even when they're not super. We lump them into the category because they're part of a brand that creates superheroes, like DC or Marvel. But they themselves are human. There's plenty of great and awesome heroes that are only human. Iron Man, Batman, the Punisher, Black Widow, Green Arrow, Nick Fury, most of the Bat family, also humans. They're just people who fight really good and dress up like bats or robins. Don't be insulted that Batman isn't a superhero in the literal sense. He is a superhero in the colloquial sense, in the way that he is part of a superhero brand and he hangs out with superheroes. He's just as worthy of being on the Justice League as Batman, as Superman, the Flash, Wonder Woman. Batman has earned his place, okay? He's still every bit as good and awesome as the supers are. But people took it personally, took it real personal, took it real hard. It's like, dude, not every discussion on the internet has to be a personal attack against who you are. We're just talking superheroes, man. So, words have meaning. Being a hero is great. Being a superhero is great. One means you have superhuman powers. The other means you're a human. Batman's biggest brag is that he has no powers. He's just really skilled at being a detective and martial arts, and he tangos with demigods, monsters, and criminals. So, I mean, there it is. I mean, I feel like I beat the point into the ground. I mean, I really hammered it in. It's just what it is. If we're using the word in its literal sense, there it is. Yeah, because I'm Batman. That's usually the phrase is he wins the fight because he doesn't need superpowers. He doesn't have superhero. You know, he's world's greatest detective. He's skilled in martial arts. He's really observant. He learns from his mistakes. He's filthy rich. You know, he has all these things, but none of those are because of a super serum or because he's an alien or because he's a mutant. He's just a regular guy. if Superman grabs his arm and twists it, he can break it in half. If Darkseid hits him with his laser eyes, he's gonna explode into ash, okay? Like, and yet he's still able to fight Darkseid and Mr. Freeze and the Joker and, whoever he needs to fight. And sure, sometimes he runs away and uses evasive techniques or uses, some sort of secret strategy to undermine his enemy in a fight. Yeah. Yet to see him explode, yeah. He'll always equip some sort of armor that renders him, able to defend against big attacks like that. I don't know. Let me see. I think the last thing I have on the agenda... Okay, wait. I got one more thing. I don't know if I can play this audio clip, so I'm just going to talk about it. I'll drop the tweet here if you guys want to watch the video. Tony and Bruce's superpower is retrofitting. I mean, yeah, that's pretty much what it is. I mean, they're able to adapt to any situation and learn and grow from it, right? If, in Iron Man 1, Tony's armor, he tries to fly into space. He has a problem breathing. The next thing he does by the end of the movie is he customizes his armor so that he can survive and his enemy cannot, and they come hurtling back down. And it's the same in every Iron Man, every Avengers movie. Each new suit is able to withstand the punishment that the last suit took. And it's the same with Batman. Batman does the same thing. He'll have gadgets. He'll have, kryptonite potions or batarang things or whatever. What's up, Joseph? How you doing? He'll have a suit that allows him to duke it out with Mr. Freeze. He'll have a suit that allows him to duke it out with Superman. He learns from previous mistakes and prepares a solution. So it's not necessarily the prep time argument. Because, anyone can get better with prep time. But with these characters, it's about them learning and growing from their mistakes, which once again is an example of narrative, character growth, strengths and weaknesses, learning from your flaws and your mistakes, and having character growth. That's why we love these characters. And when you skip those elements, you end up with really shitty, thrown together characters. Yeah, I really love Iron Man suits. And I think once it got nanotech, I was like, it's not as cool anymore. But once again, the nanotech is an example of the traditional suits of, physical armor could no longer defend him from blows that were coming from Thanos throwing a moon at him. He needed to have nanotech, something that could withstand mythical and magical and celestial attacks, right? So it's once again just him learning from weaknesses. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the nanosuits just don't... It feels like the stakes are lower. He's hit such a high peak that I just prefer, like you said, the traditional Iron Man, to be fair. Did I already click off what I was going to talk about? I really did. Hang on. I got to find it again. I was talking about my adventures with Superman earlier in the show. So if you kind of want to hear more about that, we might, you might tab back to that section because I got to wrap up soon. But we do have 2 more topics I want to hit before we wrap up the show. But yeah, we had a really good discussion throughout the show about my adventures with Superman and the latest season. How did I lose this? I was gonna... Oh yeah, let me just click the link that I dropped in chat. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, because, I mean, I don't really have anything to say about the new Superman movie. I mean, it's all just, rumors, and, we've seen the costume leaked and revealed and stuff, and it's yeah, looks all right, I guess. I mean, I kind of preferred the Man of Steel look. I think the trunks look. I kind of like that they're bringing in a new 52 kind of vibe, but at the same time, they're trying to do Alex Ross's Kingdom Come vibe, and it's I don't know. It all depends on how well they execute it. So yeah, this most recent link that I dropped in the channel is about legendary film critic Roger Ebert explains what a good movie review should do. And pretty much my response to this tweet was most game critics and reviewers could learn from this. And my thing is that I don't use sites with aggregated scores. I don't do Metacritic. I don't do Rotten Tomatoes. I think you know something is good when you see the previews, you see gameplay, you read a good article, like Roger Ebert says. You read something that gives you an idea of what that show, what that movie, what that game is like, or what that music album is like, and then you decide if it's for you. You can take that and still form your independent opinion on it, right? It says, I continue to say, but when you compare Metacritic scores or argue with fans and haters online, and you're comparing, scores up and down, 1 and 2, this and that, my favorite game has a 93 on Metacritic, and your game only has a 72, that means you suck, So, here we are. That's the discourse that we have. I continue to say that I missed out on a lot of cool stuff, like The Wind Waker, Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker. I skipped out on it because I didn't like the art style. I thought it was immature. I thought it was crap. But then I realized it's actually like one of the dope Zelda games, like one of the really fun ones. And I circled back around, like, I don't know how many years later, like 10 years later, to actually play it, right? So I missed out on a lot of cool stuff that I came back around to later enjoy because I either didn't trust my gut or needed to learn to open my mind a little bit, as well as not rely on others' opinions to sculpt my own. And I think nowadays, we, myself as a YouTuber, right? So calling myself out here, we do rely on YouTubers and video essayists to give us our opinions that we use in arguments, right? We don't think for ourselves. We don't form our own opinions if we simply go to the internet to find people to agree with or to search out what our favorite internet personality says, and I'll put myself in there. I think if you enjoy listening to me, you enjoy my point of view, that's great, but you should take that and combine it with opposing point of views and with your own point of view and sculpt your own point of view from that and not fully rely on my arguments and my point of view, even if you agree with those. I think you should find your own reasons and your own justification and not take my word for it. So when I say I love a game, that's great. I love a game. If I say I hate a game, it means I hate a game. But at the end of the day, I don't want you to take my word or anyone's word as gospel. We're not gods. We're just people. Journalists are not the end-all be-all here. Yeah. Hate the fact that we can't ever redesign Superman since his inception. I think it would be weird in any other form, like changing the sun color green. So what do you mean? Like, are you pro-Trunks? Are you anti-Trunks? I know they're using the Kingdom Come S sigil. I know the cape has the S on it now. I think they're bringing it over the shoulders. I think he has more of an armored look and a lot of line work that was in the new... If you look at the new 52 suit, there was a lot of line work in that. Let me pull it up. Which I actually really like the new 52 Supermans. It's one of my favorite looks in comics. Let me bring it up here. Make sure all these images are safe. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, this is kind of what they're going for. This is kind of what the DCU is going for. And I like it. I like the line work. You still see the muscles, but there's like, he almost has like a shield symbol. He almost has that crest symbol there. I mean, you got the cuffs that come up to here with the red trim. You got the neck thing coming up. And his armor like sort of digitally forms around him. It's not that he has in the New 52. It's not that he has to like wear the suit under his suit, even though sometimes he does. That's kind of the vibe they're going for. So, and then if we go James Gunn Superman, I mean, we look at it. I can't make it bigger. Yeah, we see that the suit has that same like New 52 line work, and it looks bad because it doesn't, like, he doesn't have the defined muscle, and they didn't actually. Now, Henry Cavill's suit didn't have padding or anything. That was all him. But normally what they do is they sort of paint in the muscle definition. They like color it in so that you can see it and it's more defined, right? So here it just looks like that. Yeah, it makes it look baggy. It makes it look like he's just wearing a suit that you get at the costume store, and that's why I think it looks bad. Now, there may be digital effects, there may be other things that happen that allow it to look better in the movie. But yeah, even in this scene, it looks a little baggy that he's dressing up in that. So let's do Henry Cavill, okay? So once again, he has all the muscle under this. The stupid cropped image. Okay, here's a decent one. Cause like, dude, we can see Henry don't skip leg day, dude. Like, dude's ripped through and through. The shirtless scenes, like, now some of that is painted into the suit, and some of it is, hey, dude, it's literally just a really tight freaking suit. And once again, it has sort of the gauntlets trim. It's got sort of this is the Man of Steel version, not the Batman versus Superman, but they're both quite similar in some respects. It's, you know, it's got the hints of a belt. It didn't need the trunks. And dude, just the way it's lit and the way it looks and the texture that they gave it, it just looks incredible, and it looks really strong. And I mean, every time we see him, whether it's figurines, right? Just the way it's lit, the way the suit is drawn and as tight as it fits. Now this one, you can tell they really went overboard with the sketching in the muscles. This looks fake. That looks fake. But that was for the Justice League. Joss Whedon's Justice League. That was not Zack Snyder's vision to do that. We know what Zack Snyder does. So, yeah, and I mean, even here, kind of hard to see, but I mean, we have examples of how it fits. Yeah, new Superman suit looks like CW. Oh, it's so painful. Why? Okay, hang on. Henry Cavill. Let me try find. Yeah. Here's the shot of him. Oh, dude, from the oil rig. Yeah. So like, dude was ripped, man. Like, all natural. They were not afraid to show it off. I gotta be careful about scrolling so blindly here. Okay, I'm gonna pull off here. Just a double check here. Okay. We're safe. I just wanted to make sure we didn't see any crazy fan arts. But I mean, this is what's going on under the suit, gamers. Okay, so when you have a baggy suit covering that up, it just don't look good. Super Shack, Enclave Officer says, listen, I've done Superman cosplays. I mean, I literally have, where is it? Yeah, I mean, literally my profile picture on YouTube is me wearing the Man of Steel Superman costume. Even my banner on the site has me wearing the Superman costume. I mean, that's I'm a huge fan. But yeah, it would have to. I need to work out more. I would love to be able to fit in the suit and do it some justice like Henry Cavill did. But yeah, I mean, you can tell in all these like behind the scenes stuff where he's like at the gym, he's working on his training program. And the other thing they do to make the muscles stand out so much when they film is you don't drink water that day. You dehydrate yourself and your skin gets really tight, and that accentuates your muscles even more. So, I mean, looking at his workout, dude, I mean, the guy is a legend, and that's just how I feel. I mean, we lost this to get a younger Superman, which, you know, we wasted the potential and the ability and the acting and the range that Henry Cavill has. That's where we are. So, I mean, that's my thoughts on the, you know, and I'm going to give it a perfect, like, benefit of the doubt. Like, I'm going to go to the theater and watch the Superman movie and give it the benefit of the doubt and hope it's good. Yeah, that's also true. I mean, a lot of people brought this up about the protective armor. Sorry, I didn't click it right. Why does it keep auto-scrolling down? I'm trying to highlight one of your things, but everyone's chatting. Okay. He doesn't need a protective suit. So, I mean, the new 52 suit and even the suit from Injustice 2, it comes up like this and it like forms as like an armor and all that. And it's like Superman doesn't need armor, but he also doesn't need to wear a leotard, right? But it needs to be something. It's a symbol. It's a costume. It protects his identity. Sometimes it can do things like, you know, form a mask around his head. But a lot of people say he can fly in space. And the lore is back and forth on that as to whether Superman needs a mask when he goes in space or whether he just holds his breath or whether he's just invulnerable and doesn't need to breathe when he's in space. You know, he's just this all-powerful being. So that's the method I prefer. But yeah, he's had so many reboots for sure. I mean, him and Batman all over the place. And I mean, James Bond. James Bond has been a character that has constantly grown and changed and evolved over the ages. So, yeah, I think it's in a tricky space. But, like I said, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. If it ends up being great, cool. If not, you're going to hear it from me. But just know that Man of Steel, as a Superman fan, Man of Steel is one of my favorite movies, period, ever. And it's also one of my favorite Superman movies, period. Oh no, don't say James Bond is a superhero. We just did this. I think he's a hero. He doesn't have superhuman abilities. Okay. But I mean, he might as well have the plot armor of a superhero because he really gets out of some sticky situations in some ridiculous ways. But it's that writing that makes us love him so much, I guess. Okay, last thing. Listen, I gotta start wrapping it up. We can't have a 6-hour long episode here. The next thing, okay? Final point. Marvel's Secret Invasion. Okay, I said it right this time because earlier I tweeted and I called it Secret Wars, and I'm quite thankful no one jumped in and you know, talked smack to me and said I don't know what I'm doing. But yeah, I said I've been checking out Marvel's Secret Wars. That's what I was watching. So I'm late to the party on Secret Invasion, and I might accidentally slip and say Secret Wars. But I just watched it. I just finished the season finale today. I didn't really like it. I like Nick Fury. I like the fact that they were giving him a show and that it was, you know, this show is supposed to be like the lead in to Secret Wars and to show that the Skrull are doing these secret things, hiding behind government officials, and that there's millions of them, and a scroll could be anyone, even our favorite heroes and our characters, and prime ministers could be scroll, right? Whatever it may be. I just thought it was a meandering show, and the writing just goes nowhere. Like, it's just, every episode is just like Nick Fury walking around talking to people, and they talk, and everybody talks. And sure, there's a few action scenes, but like it's a show with no direction and no strong narrative. And it once again, like, hammering home the point of some of the characters in the Acolyte, it's like you're wasting Samuel L. Jackson. You have a prolific actor in an incredible role as Nick Fury, and you're just making him go around, just dropping the N-word and cussing and just being, a guy, And sure, there's a couple moments where he gets some action moments and he has some great dialogue, but it's few and far between. I think overall it's just not a great show. But I will say this. Everyone was really polarized about the AI intro that they used for Secret Invasion. I actually think it fits the show perfectly, because AI is like a poor interpretation of what real artists would do, of what we would create. And the Skrull are the same thing. While they can fake being a human or fake being a certain person, they are not infallible. And it actually looks cool, and it has a vibe, and that art style lends itself to having a really good, strong intro. So maybe I just, maybe I had the sights aimed too high for this show, that I thought it could be a great Marvel show, but now it ranks somewhere at the bottom. And I don't even really believe it meaningfully sets up the Marvels or even Secret Wars. It just sort of, it's just a meandering show that just happens to be part of the Marvel universe. Like, that's where we are. But I like the flashbacks of Nick Fury's past. I like, learning more about his character background that they've written for him. He's got a wife. He's got, all this past history with the Skrull. It would have been kind of cool to sneak in some cameos, have Captain Marvel show up or something, not to come save him. I actually thought that was admirable, that the show allowed him to just, he carries himself. He doesn't need Captain America to come in and save him, or somebody else, So, I don't know. Interesting. I was more excited to watch it, and it was a slog to get through, and it had some, I really like Ben Mendelsohn, who plays Talos, or Talos, as, it depends who's pronouncing his name as to how it's pronounced, but I like that. But ultimately, the whole plot being like stealing Avengers DNA and making Super Skrulls, and everybody at the, the two characters at the end basically were combining Hulk and Groot and Captain Marvel's powers to fight each other. It to me, I was just watching that fight, and I was just like, I'm not even excited. I'm not even like in the moment. I'm not like, when you're watching Hulk beat up Loki or something, you're like, yeah, you're like in the fight, and you're passionate about each strike being thrown and who's winning or losing. And I was watching the final fight of Secret Wars, and I was just like, that was my reaction. I was like, let me check my phone, like. So I don't know. I think if we try to make Secret Wars something good, you go at it with the Winter Soldier formula of Captain America the Winter Soldier. Political thriller, high stakes, spy action, feet on the ground, guns loaded, Jason Bourne type action and camera angles and narrative flow, and everything has to be really tight. It needs to be like an early 2000s action flick with Denzel Washington or someone like that, where where everything is really tight, flows one moment, flows into the next. There's no lulls, there's no like extra fluff scenes or pivoting off to characters that aren't involved or that we don't care about. And if you're bringing in characters, you need either flashbacks or you need a proper pre-roll before the show to explain who they are and where they're from, because we didn't know that Martin Freeman's character was a Skrull. We didn't necessarily know that Rhodey's character was a Skrull, but that was a cool shock value moment. But at the beginning, I was like, wait, so was Martin Freeman's character a Skrull the whole time, or has he just been recently kidnapped? There's a lot of like open to interpretation things there that's like the show should have really cleared that up or been more straightforward about it. And I think wasting Maria Hill and killing her over nothing was a cheap move. And I think it was another example of bad writing, because Maria Hill is every bit as resourceful as Nick Fury, whether it's in the comics or the TV shows or the movies or whatever. You know, she is able to hold her own, and her just, you know, getting caught off guard like a punk, you know, just sort of undermines her character and her character growth. And just to kill her off as some sort of shock value, it's just not good. So I was actually kind of hoping that, you know, maybe she was a Skrull too at the end of the day. That would have been more interesting. So I don't know. And it can get confusing when there's so much Marvel content out there that you either don't remember, or you have to kind of go back and see like, okay, well, what's referencing this? Because I don't remember blah, blah, blah. Like, there's so much out there, and if you even miss a single Marvel show, you'll miss that one piece of context to understand one 5-second callback that they make. And I believe that's starting to become a flaw with Marvel in a lot of their shows, is that they're too busy doing cameos and callbacks and witty little things like that it only deals with the hardcore fans that rewatch the movies over and over and over and over and over and over. And it's like, not everyone has that kind of time. I love all this stuff, but it's like I can't afford to go back and just rewatch. So that's where we stand on that. So once again, I want to thank everyone for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, ring that notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos, podcast episodes, and all that. Consider supporting the channel as a member, because with your membership and with the money that I earn from live streaming, it goes into better streams, better podcast guests, more features, more games, more cool stuff, greater opportunities, and beyond. So once again, I want to thank you all for watching. This has been Shackcast episode number 54. Take care, be safe, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.